Hello, it's Nikki and welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad so many of you are loving the interviews and thank you so much for sharing, rating and reviewing. I so appreciate it. Anyway, I wanted to continue the conversation of success. So often we hear the extremes, don't we, of rags to riches, homeless to billionaire, sleeping on a random sofa to a blinged up palace. But what about the in-between bits? I know personally I have had many. How do you get from A to Z? But also, how do you get from A to B or F to M? In these mini episodes, I want to provide questions to ponder, ideas that might spark a brainstorm, or raise topics that might be a little bit uncomfortable in the moment, but they will support you to go to the next level of your business. As always, please come over to social media at Nicky Raby, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and breakthroughs. Hello, hope you're having a good week. I want to talk today about Stylist Live. I was a speaker last Friday, which incidentally was my 37th birthday as well. And it was such a great gig. There's lots of information and stories and things on my Instagram, so you can go over there at Nicky Raby. But I know so many of you wanted to come but weren't able to. It was in London. Sometimes people can't travel, whatever it might be. And I wanted to share some of the takeaways that I shared with the audience who were there live on this podcast. So the first thing that I wanted to say was Stylist Live has been on my goal list for 4 years. And it's a really important point to make first and foremost, because I have had a few messages of, whoa, how did you get that? Or, wow, I can't believe that that's kind of come together for you. And what I want to share first and foremost is there has been a lot of work behind the scenes and a lot of clarity work, a lot of permission, letting myself really kind of dig into what I want to do and what the next chapter of my career looks like. And I think sometimes I want to share this point because it can be very easy to look out there, see what everybody else is doing, and firstly think, oh, well, that's just not possible for me. And secondly, oh, well, it's not fair. How come they got that? So that is my first takeaway for you today, is to get really clear on what it is that you actually want. Because certainly the way that I see it now, and this has been something that I've worked with personally, back in the day, I used to look at people and go, oh my goodness, they've done it. They've taken the seat at the table. It's not possible for me. But these days, I am much more in that inclusive, I lift you up, you open that door, I help you here kind of way of helping people move forward. And I've done so many introductions to Stylist Live from various clients or people that I know, because I really want these opportunities to be open to everybody. Another thing that I can share is I got really clear on how I could add value. So when I went to pitch and I had the initial meeting, I made it about them, not about me. And I think sometimes our egos can get in the way and we're like, yeah, I'm going to be on that stage. I wonder how many people I'll get. I wonder if I'll get a goodie bag or free stuff, or probably my Instagram followers will go up. And we get caught up in it being all about us. And so what I did with this meeting was, firstly, I took it very, very seriously. I was very grateful to have that time in the room to be part of that conversation, because I know it's a competitive industry. And I really planned within an inch of my life, I would say. And I came up with lots of concepts and ways in which I could really help, that I could really add value. And I did my research. I know the magazine anyway. I read it weekly, but I really went a layer deeper. Sometimes we think we know what these establishments are. Sometimes we think we know what their flavour is. But definitely, since the introduction of digital, everything is changing really, really quickly. So it's important that we, when we're pitching, when we're having conversations, that we know what season they're in. We know what's kind of going on. And certainly when I was an agent several years ago, when I was pitching clients and other actors, I had to have my finger on the pulse and knowing what was relevant right now and really being part of that conversation. So the way that I opened was this sense of, it's been on my goal list for 4 years, and there I was talking about goal setting, and definitely the irony was not lost on me. So for me, it's always really important to have that conversation and dialogue with the audience from the outset. I've learned this a lot over the years in terms of being a speaker. I never want to be that person who's like, right, I'm here, I'm going to share my message and you're going to listen. For me, even though in that moment I was the only one speaking, I want it to be a dialogue. I want people to feel part of the conversation. And certainly when I've gone and I've seen speakers in that kind of way, sometimes I've had that moment where I've almost said something out loud. I am going to be sharing my course, Let's Get Visible, in the next few weeks. So if you are interested in building your confidence, in looking at speaking, at looking at become much more of an expert in your field, and really considering how you can use social media and your voice and present yourself and all of that good stuff going forward, that might be a really great course for you. So the best thing at this stage to do is to join my mailing list, nickyraby.com/magazine, and you'll get my weekly magazine as well, which incidentally is all for free. So I shared that I do lots of things. I'm an actor, a coach, a writer, a speaker, and now a podcaster. And I'm definitely multifaceted. I'm a multi-hyphenate. I have a portfolio career, and I really talked about how that way of working is celebrated now. And definitely back in the day when I was full of ideas and fizzing around with solutions and stuff that I wanted to do, I was definitely known as somebody who couldn't really make her mind up, or, oh, she's creative, that one, or who knows what she's up to now. And it was definitely said in a negative tone rather than a celebratory tone of, oh, isn't this exciting that she's doing lots of things. Now, one thing that I realised when I was younger was there wasn't really a growth mindset. And that's not to say that boys were really celebrated and girls were just left to clean the houses. It wasn't that by any means. But everybody was trying to pull you into this funnel and get you in a lane, get you to tick some boxes, get you in the system of you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this. And for some people, that firstly doesn't work because that's not the way they learn, that's not the way that they excel. And certainly as well, I was that person who can do all the academic stuff, apart from the science, which was terrible. But also I wanted to be hopping and skipping around all of the boxes. I wanted to tick a little bit here. I wanted to do a bit more here. I wanted to play at this. But also as well, there was a big piece of me that wanted to create my own boxes as well. And this is one thing that I've really had to work with over the years in really looking at how I can increase my growth mindset, because I didn't see it as a child necessarily in school. I've spoken about this on the podcast. It was very much about putting one foot in front of the other, not looking side to side, getting on with things, being grateful, and just doing a good job. So I really want to encourage you today to think about your own growth mindset. And if you're not getting what you want, if you're not feeling like you're in an environment or a playground or a pool, however you want to think about this, and you don't feel like you're thriving, maybe you're around people who don't necessarily get you, or you're getting trapped in the old mindset of, well, you can't do this, it's probably not going to work, and you're on that track, give yourself permission to start to explore other options. So exploring ways in which that your mindset and your current circumstances can actually support where you're going. A coach friend once said this to me, and she said, try and make decisions from where you want to be rather than from where you are right now. And certainly as well, I'll be really honest about this. I wanted to get this filmed because I'm having conversations with agents and various other companies, and lots of things are going on behind the scenes, which is really exciting. And when I was looking at how I could maximize this and how I could really step into this Stylist Live, there were a lot of outgoings for me. There were a lot of things to get organized. I wanted to make sure that I had childcare for the day, that I wanted to make sure I had something great to wear. I wanted to make sure that elements of my website were in place. And a lot of those things impacted me and my time and money, and making sure that I would do that. And one thing I did was to put the feelers out on Facebook and ask if anybody had the capacity or the resources to be able to film my talk. And I said from up front that I didn't have a huge budget for it. And I know this from my TV and film work, that shooting material, creating production is very, very expensive. And it involves insurance and lights and cameras and making sure that all of these things are in place. So I knew that I needed to get creative in how I did this. I had a fantastic conversation with a production company, and she came back to me and she said what the fee was. And this fee certainly wasn't something that I had anticipated paying. I'd done my budgets, I kind of assigned money in different ways brilliantly. And I, again, really encourage this in my clients and other people that I met. She had her price, and that is what she wanted to do. She knew the value of what she could offer. So the week before, after saying no and after saying like, oh, well, hopefully we can work together another time, I got the wheels in motion. I followed up on stuff that perhaps hadn't been finished. I contacted clients. I sold a couple of things. I just got really creative, because going back to that point of what would my future self do, they would need the video footage. And certainly as well, in this meeting your goals halfway, there are going to be some things that you're going to have to do that are out of your comfort zone, that feel a bit scary, that perhaps you have to throw some money at stuff, or that sounds very flippant in the way that I'm saying it, but to throw some budget into the mix. We can't just always do the free option. We can't ask for favors or friends or whatever. This is about running a business. And I say this being 5 and nearly 6 years into my coaching business, that for me, it is about making those leaps and making it serious and making it, I guess, proper. I haven't seen the footage yet, but I'm sure it will be great, and I'm sure it will really pay off. And that is going to be something that I can use going forward, which is very exciting. Okay, so then we moved into this exercise, which I really love. This is an age that I really connect with, so this is an age that is good for me to use as an example. However, if you want to add your own age into the mix, please do so. So a coach recently asked me to really connect with the 7-year-old version of me. Now, when I was 7, I've spoken about this on the podcast, I literally thought I could do anything. I was wearing a shell suit, I was really sassy, I felt really good at school, and I just felt like I'd really stepped into that older sister route, and yeah, I was just felt like I had it all together. Oh, how wrong I could have been. But it's really interesting when I look back on her, and it's quite significant, I guess, that that person was me 30 years ago, because I'm now 37. And really thinking about what she would say in terms of my next planning. So one thing about goal setting is that sometimes we feel like we're doing it from a slightly panicked, a slightly overwhelmed, a slightly insecure, uncertain place. But I really want you to begin any exercise about thinking about what you want from that place of anything's possible. Let's see what happens. Isn't this exciting? Let's kind of go with the flow. And I know, of course, our adult responsibilities want to get in the way and, of course, pull us down and make us edit ourselves and pull back and hold back. However, I want you to go back to that place, so whether it's 7 for you or whether it's another age, and really think about what he or she would do. What would they say? What do they know about you? What skills do they have? And maybe there's a certain type of attitude that maybe throughout, as you've gone through your life, you've lost a little bit has been chipped away, and you really need to go back to that place. Another really significant year for me is when I was 17. Again, I was probably not the best student. I was quite rebellious. I was hanging around with all the people and having a great time, actually. But there was something about my attitude and my determination and my fearlessness that is really compelling to look back on. I'm sure if you asked my parents, they would have a very different story. But it's a really interesting starting point. Okay, so I'm going to share some of these images in the show notes because I think it would be quite nice to see that you can see what I was talking about. But I really shared lots about my goals and my vision. And I think sometimes it's a case of lifestyle sometimes and really getting to grips with what that means. Because we can look at a gorgeous handbag or a pair of shoes and go, yeah, I want that. But I want you to go a little bit deeper in terms of lifestyle. What does that mean? What do you want to create? What does your ideal day look like? And this isn't necessarily about entrepreneurship or running your own business or any of those sort of things. In fact, for you, working in a corporate structure may be the best thing. And I definitely have a bit of both of this, that I always have to work with the strategy. So I want to be creative. I carve out that time in my week. But also I quite like that routine aspect of getting up, getting sorted, going for a run, doing a shower, whatever it might be. And even though I work for myself, I still like to start that Monday as I mean to go on. And actually, when we could choose our childcare days, I don't know if you were supposed to choose, but we asked if we could have a Monday and a Thursday because I really like that sense of having a bit more control over my week and starting Monday in that ideal place. So if you want to go and look at those images, they're all in the show notes. Just follow this episode. But I shared what I wanted to do, the people that were important to me, how I wanted to operate creatively and business-wise. And it was a really lovely way of pulling things together. But I want to share something with you. Even though I've always been really ambitious and proactive and really determined to actually go for what it is that I want to do, I only really learned how to set goals efficiently when I actually trained to become a life coach. And before, it was all really vague and it was just random things on a list. It wasn't backed up with any fact or strategy necessarily. As I'm saying this, you may be having all kinds of thoughts of like, really? Does this stuff work? Oh, can't I just see what happens? Because I know sometimes when we do this inner work, it can feel quite jarring. It can feel like it's just another thing to do. But I want you to know this whole dream life conversation, business goals, whatever it might be, it's definitely now part of the conversation, and there has never been a better time to create this life and business that you want. People are talking about flexible working when you say that you need support with your mental health. People know what that is and they're willing to find a way and a solution for that to be part of the conversation. So don't get lost in that fear that everybody else has all of this figured out. I'm sure they don't, but please know that this is a really great time for you to start to make small steps to what it is that you want. Okay, so then I shared this quote from Tony Robbins, who is a life coach, and he says, by the 2nd of February, 80% of us have given up on our New Year's resolutions, which is a mere month and a day after the 1st of January. Now, I am not about to share all the science bit behind it. I don't know that. Now, I have to say this doesn't surprise me because the bit of writing down what you want, planning, brainstorming, all that sort of stuff is the real exciting bit often. The tricky bit is the bit where we have to actually deliver and we have to implement and really go for what we want. Also, January the 1st must be the worst day to set goals. It's likely that you're full of cheese or chocolate or wine or all of the above. You've probably had about 6 weeks of indulgence, of having a lovely time. And this is all brilliant, by the way. I absolutely love that time of year. But you're probably not starting from that point of, yeah, let's do this. Also, as well, it's probably really cold outside. It may even be snowing. You've got the heating on. You don't want to move far from your sofa because last night, New Year's Eve, maybe you went out, maybe you stayed up late, but you're definitely not in that, hi, I'm fresh as a daisy zone. Also, because you had that late night, you might want a nap. You're not in an energized state. You're not in necessarily a solution-focused situation. And I don't know about you, but often on New Year's Day, we do something. We go out for a nice lunch, or we have people here, or we go somewhere, and the celebrations very much continue. So to start on that day can be all kinds of pressure and slightly overwhelming. So also, let's talk about this list. Have you ever written a random list full of things that maybe you thought that you should write? Not necessarily that you feel like or you feel called to, but you write down things because you feel you ought to. Maybe that's what your mates are talking about, people around you, and you have that sense of, oh, blimey, I better start going to a spin class too. Also, as well, when we write our list, we don't necessarily know what it is that we're writing. So we might write things like more money, or be healthier, or less grumpy, or more organized. But unless you really break that down and figure out what that means to you, it's just a random statement on the paper. So it's about really going into detail at that stage of what that means. Because I know I've had that moment of going, more money, right, I'll just write a figure down, 100 grand. And I have no idea how I'm going to make that money. I know that it's possible, but I can only do that if I have a plan of action. So it's really important that you break down those goals into mini little more manageable goals and really get clear on what it means to you. Often people talk about this sense of a freedom-based business. But again, I want you to figure out what that means to you, because I will share something with you. How often have you written your list and you feel really proud of it, you feel really good, and you fold it up or you close the book of your notebook and you put it somewhere safe? You can't actually remember where you put it, and you're certainly not looking at it every day. And it may get to May, for example, that you open a drawer and you're like, oh, there it is. That's what I've been looking at and thinking about. So it's really important also as well, when you're doing these exercises, to write something down in a place where you're going to see it regularly. Now, in mini episode 9, I talked a lot about this, and there's loads of really great journaling questions in that episode, so go and check that one out as well. But I certainly keep everything in one notebook. For years, I had so many notebooks, it was quite overwhelming, and it certainly didn't help me progress. So that might be a really good episode to tune into too. And the reason that I'm so passionate about this as well is that I know that it works. So last November, I did all of this myself. And by the time January came round, I felt really focused. I felt really strong. I felt really ready to rock, actually. And it didn't have that moment of that kind of slow incline of really getting going into the year. Because I'd done that planning in November, by the time it got to January, I was just tweaking things. And of course, yes, I took things off my list that no longer interested me, or I may have even done them in those months between November and January. So it's been a really interesting process that I've learned through. And I know now for me, planning in advance is going to be much more effective rather than waking up on that first day of the year and thinking, oh, blimey, I better do something great. Okay, let's look at the process of setting goals, because I've got 7 things to share that may get in the way and may delay the process, and then 7 solutions that can help you move past them anyway. So one of the things that slows us down in terms of goal setting is when we have that fear of failure. Gosh, we all have it, you know, that moment of putting yourself out there, of going for something. What if it doesn't work out? What if you lose all your money? What if you have to go back to your 17-year-old job? For me, it was working in the Golden Wonder crisp factory. I don't want to go back there. But we can all build up this fear of failure. Also, as well, when we're in that situation, the more times that we doubt ourselves, our brain starts to look for more evidence. Like, oh no, oh, this went wrong. Oh no, it's maybe not meant for me. I didn't get the sign from the universe. Oh, something else to think about. Oh, it's now getting a bit scary. And you have that fear of failure. So the way that you can combat this is to set yourself up for success. And this could be habits, it could be ways of tracking your success, it could be getting support, like a coach, I'm available. It could be creating a group of supportive people who you meet with and you create that accountability. But whatever you need to do and bring into play, do that, because it's going to be a new set of rules going forward. You're not going to just be able to exist in the way that you have done if you're making big leaps in your life. So give yourself that time and attention to let yourself think about maybe what help you need and what you need in order to move forward. The second thing is that lack of clarity. So we write things on our to-do list like, I just want to make more money, I just want to feel happier, I just want to feel like me, all of that stuff. And we don't really know what that means. And when we're in that situation, it can be really hard to start to tick these things off the list. So take some time, this is again how the solution for this, take some time to step back from whatever it is that you're doing and make the commitment to actually figure this out, to step back, to brainstorm, to reflect, to write notes, to dream big, all of these kind of cliche things that people talk about, but it's really important because when you're in that creative headspace, that's when you'll start to come up with ideas and solutions and all of those good things. Number 3, permission. Goodness, it's such a big piece of the puzzle. Giving yourself permission to want what you want is huge, and it's very much a work in progress. Often we're told when we're younger that we should just like it or lump it, or you've had enough now, or you can't excel in all areas of your life, and that's just the way that it has to be. There are probably going to be lots of limiting beliefs that come up for you time and time again. So all you need to do in that circumstance is to check in with them, to notice them, and then give yourself permission to move forward regardless. Because you know what? It's okay to want what you want. Number 4, excuses. Oh my goodness, these are like buses. So once you tell your brain, just give me a get out card. Come on, I don't want to do this. This feels a bit scary now. Just give me some excuses. When you were a kid that suddenly you thought, oh no, I don't want to go into school tomorrow. I've got that maths test and I'm really underprepared, or I just don't want to do it. The likelihood is by the time the next day rolled around, you would be feeling ill or you would have caught a bug. But also we have to notice whether those excuses are real or not, and making sure that we're focusing on what we actually want and how we want to get there. So likewise, when I do exercise in the morning, so often I really don't feel like it, and I can come up with every excuse, how busy I am, how tired I am, how it's not a great use of my time. But I know the future me will really thank me for this, and it's important to try and stay focused on that. And again, also, if you make huge habits at the beginning of the week and by Tuesday they are starting to fall by the wayside, give yourself permission to choose again. You don't have to wait until the following Monday to start again and all your work and feel like all your hard work has gone to waste. It really hasn't. Just choose again. That's all you need to do. Number 5, sometimes we don't have any room for change. So when you want to buy a new piece of furniture for your living room, say for example, you're looking at buying a new sofa, you have to know how that sofa is going to fit into your living room. Otherwise, some people are going to bring it into your house and there's going to be no space for it. So it's really important when we're thinking about change to make sure that we've actually got time and energy to make that possible. So often we can say, well, I want to do that, or I want to add that into the mix, but you have to be willing to be able to let some stuff go as well, and not just assume that everything will carry on as normal. So what you're looking at here is daily action. So say, for example, the goal was to get a new sofa, and maybe that's not quite in your budget or means just yet. Start to try these things on. Start to look at them and explore options. Maybe go and sit on some, look at Pinterest and pull together some mood boards, whatever it is that you want to do. Daily things that are going to help you know that you're moving closer towards your goal. Number 6, it's easier to stay the same. Oh my goodness, it's so easy to stay in your comfort zone, just to plod along, hope for the best, la la la, all that good stuff. But if you know your why, if you know why you're moving forward, it's going to be so much easier. So there may be small things on a day-to-day basis of you knowing your why, or it may be your legacy, it may be your mission, something that you're building. Know what it is and know why it is that you do what you do, because that stuff is really going to help you move forward. And number 7, sometimes the goal is just too big. And when the goal is too big, we don't necessarily have a plan to be able to move forward. That's not to say when you start that you're going to know how you're going to do all of the things. I understand that, of course, but make sure that you're breaking that goal down into bite-sized chunks, that it's not too big, that it's not too completely consuming, that actually you're going to be able to move forward. Because you know what, once you start with that momentum, once things start to happen and start to become in the mix, everything is going to be so much easier. So I want you to think over the next few weeks, months, year ahead, what do you want? And write down what comes to mind. And if you're not sure, or if you're feeling confused, or you're making 1 step forward and 2 steps back because it just feels a bit terrifying to declare it, please go over to my contact page and let me know where you need help, because this is what I do all of the time. I've coached over 1,000 people now, and sometimes just having that additional person to be able to make that clear plan, you can just make so much progress. And I know that making a financial investment can be scary, can be more money than you've spent before, but it will be well worth it, and that money will come back to you very, very quickly. I've got a few questions left for you that are going to help you. I've got a few questions left for you. Okay, so to finish, a few quick fire questions. So when you think about 2019, how are you going to break it down? I like to look at things in terms of seasons, as in the first quarter, or sometimes I set goals that are a 6-month goal or a 1-month goal, or something that I'm working on for the first 2 months of the year. I really get clear on what that looks like. What's going to be helpful for you to be able to get going. Secondly, what's going to help you start? Sometimes we just need that day in the diary where everything starts to happen and move forward. So I want you to get clear on what's going to help you start. And also, why now? Why this year? So many times I've written a goal and it's gone on the list again and again, but I really want you to think about why now? Why is it important now? Because you know what? Once you get clear on that, your progress is going to be really quick. Also, what are you going to gain? So how are you going to remain excited about this? What other areas are going to be benefited in your life? And what's going to help you really stay on track going forward? Where are the other benefits going to be? And that's when it gets really exciting, because suddenly once you've done one thing, you're like, ooh, I could do this, this, and this would be great as well. And finally, what is going to keep you on track? Of course, we're all going to have days that are difficult, that we don't feel like it, that we want to do anything else apart from that thing. So it's really important that we have a backup plan. We have some backing dancers who are all ready to keep cheering us on and going for it. So really think about what is going to keep you on track. How are you going to stay motivated? Maybe it's that why, maybe it's that bigger vision, that bigger purpose, maybe it's checking in with somebody. Make up your mind on what that looks like for you. So I hope that's been useful for you today. You will be able to watch the entire talk online very soon once it's gone through the editing process. But if you were there, thank you so much for coming. Oh, it was such a lovely crowd and such a great day as well. I'm also starting to map out my content for the coming year, so please let me know what would be useful, or if there's something specific you would really like me to cover. Equally with podcast guests, who would you like me to interview? Who do you want me to be connected to? I would love to hear from you, because that's why I make the podcast, for you, my friend, for you. Please come over to nickyraby.com/magazine and you can get my free weekly online magazine. And it's always full of lots of things that I don't share anywhere else. So come on over to that link if you'd like that. All right, that is it for today. Have a great day. If you do like this, please subscribe and share it with a friend. We are going for 1 million plays by Christmas, so I would love to have you on board. And I really appreciate all your support so far. Big love. Thank you so much for listening as always. If you do want to rate and review and subscribe over on iTunes or even share it with a friend, I would love it. Thank you so much for your support. If you want to find out more about me and how we can work together, please go to nickyraby.com or connect with me across social media at Nicky Raby. I'll see you soon. Bye.